I was betrayed by my husband and father-in-law, but I took back my life. My father-in-law, Noah, had always been a piece of work. But one day, he crossed a line that left me speechless. He wanted $4,000 from me every month, and when that wasn't enough, he demanded an additional $3,000. I was already providing for this household, paying for groceries, bills, utilities, even helping to clear Adam's credit card debt. I couldn't hold back my frustration. With my heart racing and voice shaking, I confronted him. You want more money after everything I've already given? For $1,000 every month, and now you're asking for $3,000 more. His response was cold, like he didn't even see the problem. He just sat there in his recliner, arms folded, like a king making demands. I need a new car, he said, as if it was a reasonable request. The old one's falling apart. I don't get why this is an issue. You have the money. I was furious. The issue, Noah, was that I had already sacrificed so much. I was covering all the expenses, and now he was demanding more. You want me to buy you a car? I asked. He insisted, raising his voice, saying he deserved it because he'd done so much for the family. I had been the one working nonstop, the one supporting everyone, and now I was selfish for saying no. It was too much. I'd been treated like an ATM by both Noah and Adam for years, but this time, I stood firm. I'm not doing it. You'll have to find another way. He stood up, his anger flaring. You're just like your mother, thinking you're better than everyone else. He charged at me, and before I could react, he shoved me. I lost my footing and tumbled down the stairs. My body hit the hardwood floor hard, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. The pain was excruciating. Noah stood above me, his face still twisted in rage, and spat out, "That's what happens when you don't respect me." Then, he turned and walked away, back to the living room. I was in shock, struggling to get up. Adam, my husband, did nothing. When he came to the top of the stairs, he didn't offer to help me. Instead, he shrugged and said, "Maya, you should have just given him the money. You know how he gets." That was the moment I realized how messed up everything was. I had been the breadwinner in a household that only saw me as a source of income. Adam had quit his job to take care of Noah, leaving me to pay for everything. I had been doing all this thinking we were building a life together, but Noah was the center of Adam's world. I had agreed to live with him to help out when Noah's health started failing, but I didn't know it would mean paying for everything, including their personal expenses. I had been fooling myself, thinking my sacrifices were appreciated. But when I lay there, bruised and aching, at the bottom of those stairs, I realized the truth. This wasn't a family. It was a one-sided arrangement where my value was based solely on what I could give. I had nothing left to give. That evening, I packed my things. I didn't say anything to Adam or Noah. I couldn't stay there anymore, but I had no idea where to go. I found a motel for the night. The weight of everything that had happened crushed me, but I wouldn't let it break me. I had been their safety net for too long, and now it was time to let them fall. The next morning, I called Angela, my lawyer. "I need your help," I said. "It's about my husband and his father." When we met, I told her everything, how Noah had demanded more money, how I was paying for everything, and how the argument had ended with me being shoved down the stairs. She listened carefully, and then she raised an eyebrow. "You've been supporting your husband and father-in-law all this time, on your own?" she asked. I nodded. For the past 4 years, I had paid every bill, covered every expense. It had all come from me. Angela made a note, then asked, "Is your name on the mortgage?" "It's all in my name," I said firmly. "They couldn't have qualified for the loan without me. I pay for it. I own it." A small, knowing smile crept onto Angela's face. "Then this is your house, not theirs. We'll start with eviction papers." I was torn. Part of me felt satisfied, finally taking control. The other part of me felt guilty. I had told myself for so long that I was doing the right thing by putting their needs before my own. But after what had happened on the stairs, I knew better. Loyalty and kindness didn't matter when people only saw you as a tool. "What about Noah pushing me?" I asked. "He could have seriously hurt me." Angela looked at me with determination. "We'll include that in the lawsuit. You're not just evicting them, you're holding them accountable. It's time to get justice." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. Angela helped me gather everything I needed: bank statements, receipts, and text messages where Noah and Adam made their demands. I had convinced myself for years that I was exaggerating, that things weren't as bad as they seemed. But seeing everything laid out before me made it clear. I had invested tens of thousands into that house. Meanwhile, Adam and Noah only offered criticism. Angela also advised me to record the incident with Noah. We need to show there's a history of abusive behavior, she said. Money isn't the only factor here. We need to prove you're entitled to a secure future. It hit me hard. I had sacrificed my physical and emotional safety for so long. But now, I was fighting for myself. For the first time in years, I was taking steps to rebuild my life. I started moving my things to a new apartment, one carload at a time. I kept my distance from Adam and Noah, who were still caught up in their own world. Adam didn't even notice I was gone, and Noah was still angry I wouldn't buy him a car. But I didn't back down. Angela had prepared a civil lawsuit for financial exploitation and assault, along with eviction papers that would require them to leave the house within 30 days. They won't take this well, Angela warned. Get ready for criticism. I was ready. For too long, they had pushed me around. Keeping my plans to myself was the hardest part. I acted like everything was fine at work, making excuses about personal stress. But secretly, I was planning my escape. The day came when we went to deliver the papers. Angela, calm and professional, stood beside me as she rang the doorbell. Noah answered, his face turning sour when he saw me. What do you want? He snapped. Angela didn't miss a beat. You've been served, she said, handing him the papers. You and your son must vacate the property within 30 days. Also, my client is suing you for financial exploitation and assault. Noah flipped through the papers, his face turning red. This isn't possible, he yelled. This is my home. I stood tall, keeping my voice steady. No, it's my home, and you're no longer welcome here. Adam appeared at the door, looking confused. Noah handed him the papers. Your wife thinks she can kick us out, he said. Adam read the papers, his face filled with disbelief. Maya, you can't just... I interrupted him. I can. And I did. For a moment, they were silent. I could see the panic setting in. They couldn't guilt-trip me anymore. This was happening. Angela turned to leave, and I followed her. They've been served, she said. Leave now. As I walked away, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I felt free. I sat in my car across the street, watching Angela deliver the final papers. The house was eerily quiet. I had waited for this moment for so long. At 10:06, I watched Angela walk up and ring the doorbell, holding the papers with confidence. A few moments later, Noah opened the door, and I could see his expression shift from frustration to confusion, then pure rage. His voice was loud enough for me to hear from my car. This is ridiculous, he shouted, clenching his fists. You can't do this. This house has been mine for years. Angela stayed calm and professional. Mr. Williams, this property is now fully owned by my client, Maya. As I said before, your 30-day notice is up. You are required to leave immediately. If you don't comply, legal action will follow. Behind him, Adam appeared, groaning as he looked over the papers Angela handed him. He was clearly just waking up, his face still puffy from sleep, hair a mess. Maya, what's all this? He asked. Angela didn't flinch. This is a civil lawsuit. It's for damages totaling $20,000, which includes compensation for physical assault, financial exploitation, and emotional distress caused by both you and Noah Williams. These proceedings will continue whether or not you leave today. I could see Noah's face turning bright red, his anger building. He grabbed the papers from Adam and ripped them up, throwing the pieces onto the porch. You think this will scare me? He yelled. You can't evict family. This is my house. Angela didn't move. That's up to the court to decide, Mr. Williams. But right now, the sheriff will be here shortly to ensure the eviction is carried out. I could see Adam standing behind Noah, his eyes wide in panic. Before Noah slammed the door in Angela's face, it seemed like he finally understood that this wasn't something that could be swept under the rug. There was no way out. Angela got back into the car and slid into the passenger seat, her step steady. They're furious, she said, grinning. But I don't think they'll do anything stupid. The sheriff will handle things from here. I let out a long breath I didn't even realize I'd been holding. I'd spent so many years letting them disrespect and take advantage of me. But now, for the first time, I was in control. And it felt strange, but good. I allowed myself to imagine what was happening inside the house. I could picture Noah pacing, yelling about how unfair everything was. Adam, probably lounging on the couch, scrolling through his phone, barely reacting. For years, that's how it had always been. But it wasn't anymore. When the sheriff's car finally arrived, Noah was already out front, screaming that this was his house, that he'd lived there for decades, and that no one could throw him out like this. Angela handed the officer the papers, and he calmly went over them. This property is legally owned by Ms. Maya, and the eviction proceedings are valid, he told Noah. You've been given enough notice. You need to pack up and leave immediately. Noah screamed again, full of rage. I won't. You'll have to drag me out of here. Finally, Adam came out with a hastily packed duffel bag. He looked confused and angry as he glanced at me from the other side of the street. Why are you doing this, Maya? We're family. Hearing the word family hit me like a knife. For so many years, they had used that word as a weapon against me, twisting its meaning to suit their selfishness. But not anymore. I was done. I stepped out of the car and walked over to Adam, looking him in the eyes. My voice was calm, steady, and for once, I was completely composed. Family doesn't push you down the stairs, I said clearly. Family doesn't take your money and act like you owe them everything. This house is mine. My life is mine. And I'm not going to let either of you take anything else from me. Noah was yelling from the porch again, but I didn't listen. Adam stood there, looking at me for a long time, before finally looking away. He didn't have anything to say. No excuses. With his father still yelling behind him, he threw the duffel bag over his shoulder and walked down the driveway without a word. Angela placed a hand on my shoulder as the sheriff's officers led Noah back inside to gather his things. You've done it, she said softly. This chapter is over. I felt a mix of relief, pride, and freedom as I watched them leave the house for the last time. This wasn't just a legal victory, it was a personal one. For the first time in years, I had stood up for myself and put an end to their abuse. A small smile tugged at my lips as I turned to Angela. Let's go, I said. I've got a life to rebuild. The house felt different now. Bigger. I was struck by how much space there was without Noah and Adam's constant presence. Walking through the empty rooms, the house that had once felt so stifling now felt like a blank canvas, my canvas. It was mine. The last of their entitlement was gone with the sheriff. I thought about Noah, still ranting, but now he had nothing left to hold on to. He was a shadow of the man who once promised a life with me. Adam, too, was more reserved, and while it was bittersweet watching him leave, I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt pity. As I locked the front door, Angela stood by my side. You've done something not many people have the courage to do, she said warmly. It's hard to walk away from people you've invested so much in, even when they don't deserve it. Her words sank in. I nodded. I think I finally realized it wasn't just about the money, I said. It was about taking back control. For years, I let them make me feel like I owed them everything. But I don't owe them anything. Over the next few days, I began putting my life back together. I hired a cleaning service and had the locks changed on the house. It felt symbolic, like I was erasing the damage they had done. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alienated in my own space. Friends and coworkers reached out to offer their support. Lily told me, "You're amazing for standing up for yourself." One afternoon, while having coffee with her, she said, "It would have been so easy to just keep putting up with it. But you didn't." I smiled. I think I just reached my breaking point. When Adam told me I should have given Noah the money, I realized he didn't care about me at all. If he didn't care, then why was I giving so much of myself to them? Lily nodded. It's hard to see that when you're in it. But you're out now, and that's what matters. I stopped answering calls from Noah and Adam. Angela assured me they had no legal grounds to contest the eviction or lawsuit. You've already won, she said, and I believed her. I felt untouchable for the first time in years. I turned my attention to the future. I began exploring new hobbies and career options I'd put off for too long. I had more time and energy to focus on myself, and even thought about selling the house. I needed to start fresh somewhere new, away from the ghosts of the past. As I sat on the patio one evening, sipping wine, I thought about everything that had led me here. It hadn't been easy, but each challenge had taught me something about my own strength. For too long, I had let others define my worth. But that was over. With the stars beginning to twinkle in the sky, I looked out at the quiet street. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. This was my life now, and I was living it on my terms. The pain, the betrayal, the anger, it was all still there, but I wasn't letting it control me anymore. I took back my strength, and in doing so, I began to find myself again. For the first time in a long while, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and I could see clearly ahead. The road was open, full of chances, and I was ready to see where it would lead. This wasn't just the end of a chapter, it was the beginning of my own story. Thank you for sticking with me till the end. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next dramatic episode.